The other night we made a pretty amazing spaghetti sauce with a whole bunch of stuff from the garden. And now tonight we're gonna take this spaghetti sauce, we're gonna put it in the freeze dryer. And then at the end of this video, we're gonna rehydrate everything and see how it tastes. This is a pretty simple spaghetti sauce. We took some tomatoes, we blanched them, we peeled them, we blended them up in the blender just a little bit, and then we put them in a pot to simmer. While that was simmering, we also took some ground beef as well as some ground sausage and cooked that up. Now here's where this gets a little bit tricky. When you are freeze drying something, you don't want to use anything that's really fatty because that fat doesn't freeze dry off and it kind of sticks to the meat and then it doesn't really have a shelf life after that. What we did to kind of counteract that is we cooked all the meat up, we drained off all the fat, and then we actually rinsed it in the sink with some really hot water. What that did is as we were rinsing it, you could see all the fat kind of draining off. It was kind of yellow and you could just kind of tell that it was really fatty water that's coming out the bottom. Once it was draining off clear, we took it out of that water, we put it into our pot with the rest of the sauce. Once this is done and we have everything freeze dried, I'll kind of bring you in close and we'll take a close look at this meat and make sure that there's not any fatty residue on it. And as long as we're not seeing a whole lot of that fat, it should be shelf stable for many, many years to come. After we got the meat in the pot, we just kind of let it simmer for a couple of hours to kind of thicken up a little bit because it was really runny at that point. We also cut up some onions and then kind of sauteed them and then moved those into the pot as well. So this is just a nice sauce with meat and marinara and onions and all the good stuff. To get this freeze dried, I'm gonna do a couple of things here. And first off, I'm gonna use some parchment paper. And I'm gonna put the parchment paper on the bottom here. Now, parchment paper has been good and bad for me. When I did eggs, it kind of leaked, the eggs kind of leaked underneath the parchment paper, but when I did Bloody Marys and when I did salsa, kind of everything tomato based, everything stayed on top of the parchment paper and it made it really nice when I was done. I could just kind of pick up the puck that was left over in here and then everything just popped right out, kind of all in one piece, and the parchment paper helped with that. Nothing got stuck to the bottom. So I am gonna use parchment paper today. We'll figure out later in this video if this is a good idea or not. I'm probably gonna make a mess here, but that's okay. And I decided that I'm gonna use this to scoop everything out because I think this spoon just isn't quite gonna cut it. So I'll set the spoon over here. All right, now let's get these in these trays. Hopefully you can see that sauce there. Let's go ahead and start filling this up. As we're filling this up, we don't wanna fill it up all the way to the top. We wanna fill it most of the way up, but not quite, just in case you have any kind of, if the sugars in the tomato expand, that you'll get this kind of like this sticky residue up on the top. And it doesn't hurt anything, it's not bad, but it will kind of make the top of it rise a little bit. Normally with liquids, you wanna fill them up either in the freeze dryer itself, or if you're freezing it before, you wanna fill it in the freezer. This is gonna be kind of chunky and solid enough that I'm not too worried about it. I'm gonna stack 5 trays on top of each other and then get them all in the freezer, and we'll kind of see how it goes from there. If you're curious as to where I got these little stacker things, I honestly don't know if these are the best version out there. I've seen a lot of different people with different brands of these little corner things that help you stack. These are just ones that I got on Amazon. They work great for me. I'll put a link down in the description below if you're interested. So I ended up getting this brand because it came with the 5 sets instead of the 4. And they honestly work just fine. I've had no issues with these whatsoever. This parchment paper has been pretty amazing too. It perfectly fits the medium freeze dryer tray. You don't have to cut it or anything like that. If you're interested, I'll put those in the description below as well. But it just makes it really easy to grab that parchment paper, slap it right in your tray there. All right, I feel better about the amount that's in this tray than what was in the other tray. So let me go ahead and fill the rest of these 3 trays and then we'll come right back. We were able to fill all 5 trays with no extra sauce, which is pretty awesome. We kind of made the perfect amount here. The reason why we're putting it in the freezer is if we put it into the freeze dryer right now, it's gonna take a long time for that freeze dryer to bring this all down to the temperature it needs to be to start the freeze drying process. The freeze dryer is gonna take a lot more energy than the freezer will. So if we put this in the freezer first, it's gonna sit in there for 24 to 48 hours until this is all frozen solid. Once it's frozen solid, we're gonna put it in the freeze dryer. It will still freeze it colder than the freezer will get it, but it's not gonna have to freeze it from room temperature or refrigerator temperature that it is right now. It's probably a good idea if I open the freezer first so I don't have to do that when I get over there. So let me do that. Success. Now that I've done that, there's no way I'll ever try that with liquid because I know that I was just over there fumbling that whole thing around and it would have been a mess if I tried to do that with anything more liquidy than that. All right, we'll be right back as soon as that's done freezing. It's been a couple days and our sauce is completely frozen, so let's go ahead and go get it in the freeze dryer. The system's been cooling for a little over 15 minutes now, so it's ready to be filled up. When we do this, these trays are extremely cold, so there's been a couple times that I've actually come in here with like oven mitts to load these up because it gets so cold on your hands when you're working with frozen trays. I definitely might invest in some gloves or something to start loading these up because it really is so cold. Now, once we get these trays loaded up, it's actually a really easy process after that. We don't have to do anything with the machine whatsoever. We get them loaded, we close the valve so that way it can achieve some vacuum, and then we just let it go. We have it set up to where after the dry cycle is completely done, it's gonna do an additional 24 hours of drying. That doesn't necessarily mean we have to use the full 24 hours. All that is a just in case. So let's say I'm not home when it finishes and I'm not gonna be home all day long. I wanna make sure that it doesn't go straight back into a freezing mode after it's done drying. All right, we got that completely loaded up, ready to go. It's gonna run, this load is probably gonna run at least 24 hours, probably closer to 30 hours, 36 hours, somewhere around there. I'll let you know as soon as we come back. While we're waiting for the freeze dryer to finish up, if you're enjoying this video, go down and hit the like button. What that's gonna do is it's gonna tell YouTube that you're enjoying this video, and then they're gonna send it out to other people who might also enjoy it too. And if you're in the market for a freeze dryer, there's gonna be a link in the description below. This is gonna be an affiliate link, but it costs you no extra money to buy through that link, but it does give us a small commission, and we use those commissions to make more videos like this one. We'll be back as soon as the sauce is done. And here we are. The cycle time for this one was roughly 36 hours or so. That ended this morning and then I had to go to work, so I couldn't really do anything with it. So now it's been running on an extra dry time for about 10 hours. And in my experience, letting it get some extra dry time is not a bad thing. It's gonna give you just kind of some extra reassurance that everything is completely dry. So that way when you get it in your Mylar bags, it's gonna stay shelf stable for that 25 years that it says it will. When you open the drain valve, you wanna make sure that your hose down on the bottom isn't in water, because if it's in water, it's gonna suck that water up and just completely ruin your dry. Let's open this up and see what we're looking at here. Wow. All right, I'm just gonna take this one in with us into the kitchen to get it kind of in the Mylar bags and everything. All right, now that I have this in a brighter room that I can actually see, I am so happy with how this turned out. It's just one big giant puck. It completely separated from the parchment paper. I'm really happy that I did the parchment paper. The entire thing of spaghetti sauce is just completely bone dry and just one big puck. That's when you know it's dry. And I'm not seeing any grease or anything like that at all. Nothing seems sticky. It's just a really, really good looking freeze-dried sauce. So what we're gonna do is, with this, I don't want to hit it with the food processor because I don't want this to turn into that fine of texture. I still want it to be a nice, chunky, meaty sauce when we go to use it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just going to cut this into kind of serving sizes. So I'm just gonna cut it right down the middle here. Oh, maybe. The whole thing is breaking apart as I'm doing this. So this piece right here, I'm gonna save this for us to try here in just a second. And then the rest of this, I'm gonna start packaging this up. And if you package this up in Mylar bags, make sure that it's a good quality Mylar bag. These ones are 7 mil from Harvest Right. And this comes with your freeze dryer when you get one. It comes with this, it comes with the sealer that I have right here. It comes with literally everything you need, the oxygen absorbers, all of it. So I'm gonna go ahead, I don't want to break this up into any smaller pieces than what I've got here. So pieces like this, I'm just gonna go ahead and put it right here in the Mylar, and I'm gonna fit as many of these as I can in there. After I open my oxygen absorbers, I put them in a tiny little jar like this, and what it does is it keeps those little indicators, you can see the little indicator there, the little pink thing, it keeps those pink. If you store them out in the oxygen, you're gonna make your oxygen, I can't say that today, oxygen absorbers go bad, and we don't want that. We want these to make sure, we wanna make sure that those stay good. So we've got an oxygen absorber in there, so I'm gonna go close this just like that. I do kind of put somewhat of an effort into getting the air out right there. And then we're gonna lay that right here, hit it with the sealer. There's a little light right here that, oh, I don't think it's warm enough yet. I'll be back. All right, why is this? At some point the little knob got turned to where it just wasn't going long enough, but we're good now. Here's the second bag. And you always wanna double seal these, so we'll get it once. There we go. So we got it sealed once. Now let's go ahead and hit it again just above that. You always want to double seal just to be safe. All right, so now we got a couple really good looking seals there. I'm not worried about it now. So we got 2 packages here, so we're looking at 2 packages per tray. Let's go ahead and give this a taste test before I finish the rest of them. All right, let's go ahead and add a little bit of water here. Look at that, shrink right back down. So that's rehydrating really. Wow, I put way too much water in there. Good thing I still have this right here, huh? There we go. That looks like it's rehydrating much better. All right, this has been sitting for about 5 minutes now. I went ahead and hit it in the microwave just for a few seconds so that way it wasn't cold when I went to go try it. The moment of truth. I'm actually pretty excited about this one. This is probably the most complex thing that I've freeze dried so far. So let's go ahead and give this a shot. Okay. It's actually really good. I will say that it probably could sit for just a few minutes longer. It's got the tiniest, just kind of weird texture on the meat. Almost like it's not quite hydrated all the way. But all the flavor is still there. It still tastes exactly like it did the other day before we ever freeze dried it. Definitely happy with this one. Everybody should try it.